What's up, COD fans? Welcome back to Checkmate Gaming. My hold shift. It's my birthday today. Happy birthday to me. You wouldn't believe it. If the first person to guess how old I am in the comments gets a high five. I don't know. But I want to talk Rostermania. All the roster moves that we've seen so far leading up to the ones coming up here this weekend. Maybe there's one more move that will happen beyond this weekend. What if I told you that someone let me know where they think Gunless is going and they've been right about some of the things that they've said so far? That will wait until the very end of the video. But I want to talk about some of the changes that we've seen so far in the Call of Duty League, how it's either helped or maybe not helped some of the squads involved. I want to start with LAG just quickly. Again, Vivid, Spark, Blast, they all make the addition after Minnesota, after London, right into LA home series. The hope was that this LAG team would get better immediately by picking up young talent. The problem with these moves were LAG had no identity beforehand. They didn't have a strongest part of their roster. All they were able to do was win a Game 5 versus Florida and drop a Game 5 in Round 11 versus the Seattle Surge. Everything else wasn't really all that close between Minnesota and Chicago, the two other teams that they played, before they made these moves. So when you're taking so many parts away from your team and just inserting in new ones, this may as well has just been a roster move before the season even started. We didn't 100% know who was going to be the strongest part of this team and what you needed to fill in role-wise. Keep that point in mind because I'll talk about that when it comes to other moves that have happened since then. Obviously, we know what happened to them at LA. They almost had a 3-0 versus Optic Gaming, but got reverse swept. They weren't able to do much versus Seattle Surge after that. They got 79 points to 250 on a hard point, the lowest total we've seen so far. You fast forward to what happened at Dallas, what happened at Chicago. The one thing that's been mostly consistent for this team has been their search and destroy. Before the changes, they only won a single domination. After the changes, they've only won a single domination. Their hard point has been a little bit all over the place, mostly to the tune of just bad performances. Not too many that were even all that close. A couple of tight losses there, but most of their losses are blowouts. That's why you see the differential as high as it is. It's almost 40 points right there that they lose on average. That's not very good. So for LAG, this is a roster that's still finding itself, but what I will keep in mind is almost every single roster that's made a change, actually every single roster that has made a change so far this year, will be in Group A upcoming for the Seattle Surge home series. This is a must-win weekend for LAG. Otherwise, if they don't get out of pools, if they don't win more than one game, I think we might see another change coming in the near future for the guys of LAG. But then you fast forward to Seattle, who's also in this pool, who started with Enable, picked up Pander. Now it's back to Enable. So what happened when Enable's in the mix before? That was when this team won a single search and destroy, and it was a round 11 versus the LA Guerrillas, who again we know were not all that strong to begin with. Beyond that though, that was their best look at what they were able to do in domination. They were 4-1 in domination with Enable in the mix. Since then, that win-loss ratio has been mostly 50-50 with Pander in the mix. But what do you get instead? Pander brought a higher level of search and destroy, and he was able to allow the Seattle Surge to click more on hardpoint. So why the swap? You get better in two game modes. What's the point of making the swap happen? Here's the deal. Apathy, Karma, Slacked all looked just okay at best when they were playing with Enable. Something awakened in these guys when Pander was playing with them. Maybe it was one of those things that they needed someone to fill in that dirty, objective player, just to fill that role out, let everybody else do what they're doing. We see how that works with Octane as the main AR. Now it looks like they're trying to use Enable to maybe do the exact same thing that he did in Black Ops 4 here in Modern Warfare. Be the entry guy, be the objective player. Now that we know how the rest of us want to play together, maybe this is the best option. But kind of, as you can tell in my voice, I'm not 100% sold that this is the only move that'll happen for Seattle, period, for the rest of the year. If they don't play well this weekend, Pander will always be a consistent option for this team to go back to. And who knows? Maybe Enable won't be the problem. Maybe it'll be somebody else. Can Pander fill in that role? Hard to say, but this is a team that lacked an identity before the swap. They put Pander in, they gained their identity, and now they're looking to bring that experience and veteranship back into the mix. Let's talk Florida, because that's where a lot of things have been going on over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, with Pharaoh joining after Prestinni essentially benched himself post-Atlanta. That was a big surprise for us, but they come through, they do okay at LA, they win the Dallas home series, but then they drop 6 maps. Granted, 4 of them were very close at their own home series. So now it's Maux that's a little bit on the chopping block, and Owakening that'll be brought into the mix. Now, the last time Florida made a role swap, they needed somebody to fill in for Prestinni's role, but played a little bit more controlled. That's what Pharaoh brought to the table. Maux Yes, he was starting to find a way to be a part of the system by mostly running a second AR and picking up the SMG when is needed. But Awakening is going to play that SMG, I think, at a higher level than Maux will. What this guy has been able to do so far this year has been incredible. Even back to last year, remember Awakening was at Champs with Vanity Alliance. He was mostly the main AR player, or would be the second AR player when needed, and that provided them to not only get there, but to do relatively well while they were there. His land performances this year, though, beyond that, not so great. Just a 48th place at Minnesota, then a 6th place at Atlanta. Again, it was a smaller event. But you look at what he's been able to do online. With Team 6th Gear during the Dallas Home Series, 4th place, followed by a 2nd place in the first Challengers Cup. Then he gets picked up by Wester at Chicago, 2nd place, 1st place with the 2nd Cup, 2nd place again at Florida. Not the greatest weekend in the last Cup, only a top 16 finish, but his role is more of that fluid AR SMG if you need it. One of those things that they've been trying to do in Florida and haven't found success with. So you've got the week off. You can play with them a little bit longer, see what comes through. I think this move actually makes a lot of sense for Florida, and I think it's a very positive move for Florida at that. Now we talk about London. This is another team that's in this very pivotal Group A. This is a squad that, again, they drop Rated off. They bring Shawnee back in. But it was Nasty who was initially picked up from Team War, who I think this London Royal Ravens squad actually wanted. But they haven't been able to get him over because of visa things during this pandemic. Nasty's been an insane player. 12th at Minnesota, 2nd at London, 1st at Paris with Team War. He gets picked up by the Royal Ravens immediately after that event. And since he's been playing just online with mostly what is their Challengers team, it was a 2nd place, 1st place, 2nd place, 3rd place, 1st place, 6th place finish. All of that very good, with really the exception of the most recent 6th place finish. This is a guy that is gonna fill the role, I think, of what they want more. But that's not the only move. Yeah, Shawnee's been playing fine. Now they're realizing that maybe it's Jerd who's the problem, and to fill that void, they're bringing in Zero. And this is a move I don't understand at all. When we talked about New York back before Mac got picked up, Nameless said it the best. Zero's a solid player, very smart player, but he does not play at a fast pace, which we're starting to see that has to be there if you want to be successful in Respawn, specifically in Modern Warfare. So you're getting rid of an upfront, down and dirty SMG player to bring in more of a slow, centralized flex player, we'll call him, for London. Who's going to play up with Dylan? You feel like someone's going to have to get up there, and maybe it's going to have to be Scraps, but Zero's not that guy. And Wuskin is the main AR. I don't see him dropping that for Zero. So I don't know. I'm a little bit puzzled by this one. Again, ideally, I think London, they want Nasty in this roster. I think that there is still visa issues. I don't know. Maybe something could be mistaken there, but that's the guy that I think they want. This is a team that has only won 2 hard points since Shawnee was in the mix and 1 domination since they were in the mix. They've been mostly good through their Search and Destroy, but their Respawn is lacking, and I don't see Zero being the option here instead of Jerd. It's a weird one for me. I don't know how I like it. We'll see how they play this weekend. And then I got to talk New York because, again, they are in this pool. And since Mac joined the team back during the Chicago home series, things have been looking great for them. A Game 5 win versus Huntsmen, a Game 5 versus the Atlanta Fades that they dropped, a close Game 4, again, versus Chicago in the pools of a very difficult pool in Chicago. Then you go to Florida. They dropped to Toronto. Good series. Can't really say much about it. 3-0 Florida, 3-0 Minnesota. Another Game 5 versus Atlanta. Mac was the exact thing that this New York team needed. We talked about how Zero, he was playing a little bit too slow. All of a sudden, you bring in an objective SMG player that flies around the map and kills everything in sight. It allows Attach, Temp, Zuma to do more work, and Accuracy can essentially just follow up based on when he sees his SMGs playing forward. So this New York team is looking very, very good. Would not be surprised to see them get past Seattle and potentially win the winner's bracket to get back into the playoff upcoming this weekend. Now we talk Optic Gaming LA. This is where things, I'll just go ahead and talk about it before we talk about the Prestinni move. This is one of those things that I think Optic Gaming is not done making moves yet. Now, do not take this and just immediately say that Shift said that this is 100% correct. I'm going to keep my source anonymous. Well, he actually chose to keep himself anonymous. I don't know who it is, but someone got into my email box and was talking about some of the moves that he thinks is going to happen this week, and all of them so far have been correct. He was saying, or she was saying, that Gunless after this weekend will be going to Optic Gaming LA. That is a first word, not confirmed, not second verified source that I have no idea who it is. But the information so far that they've been telling me has been correct, so I thought I would speak it into existence because we saw exactly what Chino has been able to do for this team. An incredible recent weekend during Florida. Complete 180. But we've seen this before from Optic Gaming LA. The question mark in my mind is if Gunless does go to Optic, and again, a major if. Do not go out there saying that I Hold Shift has confirmed that Gunless is going to Optic. I heard one rumor on it. I don't normally like to do this style of video, but I'm going to because I think it's an interesting conversation point. Who do you fill him in for? TJ? Maybe. Kenny? I don't have a harder time seeing that, but maybe. Slasher? Don't think so. Dashy? Don't think so. I think it's got to be either TJ or Kenny, and I think Kenny played very well this most recent weekend. TJ's been the only guy that hasn't really necessarily been consistently pop off. He's had some individual moments. That's the only thing that I could see could possibly happen for Optic Gaming LA. You also got to keep in mind that they no longer have a coach behind them, as apparently the LA Valiant is lending them their coach for something. I don't really get that at all, but regardless, Optic Gaming LA, you just played an incredible weekend where you looked great in domination. That's been a trend in your direction. You've been going very hard in the hard point, much better than you were previously, and your search and destroy has stayed consistent. So what does Gunless bring to the mix here? He can bring that extra AR, that third AR if you need it, but I think he's more an objective style SMG when it comes specifically to if he were to find himself in a search and destroy situation where he needed to pick up that SMG. That's where I feel like the SMG line has been a little lacking for Optic Gaming, and maybe something that Gunless can bring to the mix. But that's just a sheer rumor. Please do not go out there and put me all over the internet saying that this is 100% happening. I heard it from one person who I haven't not got a second confirmation from or a verification from. So that's interesting if that were to happen. I think Gunless has put together a good year. Obviously, we said the same thing in Black Ops 4, though. And after the Fort Worth series, we saw no more Gunless. So, I don't know. It's interesting. I would not be surprised to see him either get moved or not. It was just like the most blanket statement ever. But I would not be surprised to see Gunless sitting on the bench for a little bit while longer. But at the same point, a move to Optic doesn't necessarily surprise me either. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Definitely something to keep an eye on as we move forward. And then the final thing, again, Chicago, everyone knows that Prestinni is going to be starting this upcoming weekend. This is interesting because my biggest worry was, do they have a solid guy to rock that potential third AR if they need to? Obviously, you've got Arcides and Farmel who can run the 2, but who would run the third? That was my biggest question. Some of you guys are saying that Scump enjoys pulling out the AR. Others of you have said that Prestinni has been playing with the AR more often on his stream. I just take it at face value when I see it in match situations. So we'll see. It'll be interesting, but that's the one thing that it's going to be really exciting, I think, to see from Chicago is their upfront and up close and personal SMG line. Envoy, Scump, Prestinni, all three of those guys running at you is going to be terrifying. And you take a look at their pool, they'll be jumping and playing up against Paris first, and then they've got Minnesota and Optic in their pool. So a very difficult one to navigate. But those are all the roster moves. Which do you think are the best? Which do you think are the worst? Personally, I think Florida has actually made the best overall moves for what they need so far this year. But I think you got to give some credit to what Optic Gaming LA has done and what they might still be doing if they do decide to bring Gunless into the mix after this weekend is over. Again, subscribe to the channel here if you want more information, more videos on the CDL, whether it's power rankings, daily recaps, or more. And again, if you like the video, make sure you drop down, like the video. Till next time, though, hope you guys keep holding it down. So long.